Hi guys, this is John McClung from McClungMusic.com, and these are my hands, which I just had to wash really hard to get all the chalk off of after drawing this picture you see here. I recorded that process, and I've already published a time-lapse video that you can watch on my channel if you're interested. For this video, we're going to talk about the music that went along with that video. The music you're hearing right now, which is a music box version of the song How Far I'll Go from Disney's Moana. I know some of you have wondered how I make all these lullaby arrangements I have on my channel. I have done a ton of them over the last 5 years, and I thought after all that time, I'd finally take you inside the studio with McClungMusic and show you how I do it. Okay, and now we're in the studio. So this is a software I use for all of my lullabies, and as you can see, I'm running Logic, and also as you can see up here, the file that I have open, which is the How Far I'll Go file, is listed as lullaby 84. It was roughly 84 of what's been at least 130 lullabies that I've arranged or written for my channel in the last 5 years or so. So yeah, it's been a lot of them. I wanted to go give you an idea, sort of overview of what I do to arrange or write all these lullabies. First of all, hardware. As you can see right here, I use just a laptop and usually earbuds, sometimes fancier headphones, but most of the time just earbuds, and a little keyboard that I use because I travel a lot, and I can put this one in my suitcase. It's not terribly high-tech, and it's not my favorite keyboard in the world, but it works. It does what it needs to do. So that's what I use. And then in Logic, as far as sounds go, pretty much with the exception of my wife's voice, because she's sung on a few of these videos, everything you hear, all the instruments, are not recorded live. They're actually virtual instruments. And because nowadays it's amazing, the quality of the virtual instruments is pretty amazing. In fact, when I recorded a couple of piano albums years ago, and I started to do it live because I had access to a really nice piano, and I ended up just doing it in the box and buying a nice virtual piano because it sounded so much better than any recording I could get with the available microphones I had. So in the box is great these days. It's amazing. Even like Hollywood stuff, you'd be amazed at the quantity that is not actually live recorded anymore. Anyway, so as far as working on lullabies, my workflow normally, for me, the first step is actually choosing an instrument, which is funny because with working in the box, working with MIDI, the way it happens is you record it in, and you end up with all these little MIDI notes, and you can just plug them into any instrument that you choose. So for example, if I wanted to do this as piano, I could just grab the MIDI, pull it over here, and so for instance, this is what it sounds like normally, right? And I could instead just use a piano if I wanted with the same notes. That's really quiet, but if you can hear it. Personally, I don't think that works at all, which is sort of my point, because with the arrangements that I've done, it really makes a difference. If I'm going to do a piano arrangement, like for example, which one was it? It was Do You Want to Build a Snowman? That was piano. So that one, I mean, that works great on piano. It wouldn't really, if I just drag the notes over to glockenspiel or what have you, it would not sound all that great necessarily. So the point being, you have to choose the instrument and then write the arrangement for that instrument for something that will sound good. So that's what I do. Normally I start out, what kind of arrangement do I want to do, what kind of instrument do I want to use, and then I'll go from there. So lately I've been doing a lot of stuff with Celesta, well, which is funny because it's, I think of it as like music box, because they're basically like music box arrangements. So this, whoops, sorry. It has that sort of music boxy quality, but it's not actually a music box. Music box I've used a few times. I've used it for Rubber Ducky, which is one of my all-time favorites. One of my favorite lullabies I've done. And also a bunch of other ones. I've used this sound several times. And it has a nice little sound, but sometimes, especially if I want to do something a little more complicated, the music box actually doesn't have the notes available because its range is really small. Because what they did is, the company that made this particular instrument, they just sampled a music box. So they played every single note in the little music box one at a time and then turned it into a virtual instrument. But there's only a limited number of notes, so you can't, if you try to, for example, this arrangement, if you tried to plug it in, it just, you'd run out of notes, and some of the notes just wouldn't sound, and also it would sound terrible. Yeah, just too tinny. I mean, you can go in and you can lower it. Yeah, but it just doesn't work because you have to think about the range of your instrument that you're using, what notes sound good, which notes are available, and so on. So yeah, I'm just going to delete all, well, at least some of these. And yeah, because some things work better on some instruments than others. So what I did is I picked Celesta because, well, more notes are available. You can do dynamics, but you can't do on a real music box, and you still sort of get that music boxy sound, which I really like. So I've done a number of quote-unquote music box lullabies have actually been Celesta. For example, this one, which is really another one of my favorites. And also, well, that's the only one I have here. Yeah, so it has a nice quasi-music box flavor while still being a lot more versatile. So, next step for me is, once I've sort of figured out what instrument I want to do, sometimes I'll play around. Also, I need to figure out what kind of arrangement I want to do. For example, sometimes I'll do a very, especially if like a true music box, it's all, sometimes I'll go for an arrangement that sort of feels a little bit mechanical to sort of have that music box quality, like an actual music box mechanism. And sometimes I want something that sounds a lot more organic, like the piano recording I played for Do You Want to Build a Snowman sounds a little bit more like someone actually playing piano. And then like, very occasionally I'll go sort of completely that way, and like this one was like, that one was a lot of work. That one I basically arranged as if I were going to publish the music and have someone perform it live, which was a tremendous amount of work. And also, it was a long story, but that one was a lot of work. It was probably more trouble than I'm want to put into a project. That one took me like a week just to do the audio, I think, just to write it. So normally I do something a little simpler. What else? So I've got different options, and then the type of arrangement changes based on that. Sometimes, also how I want to write it, sometimes I'll actually write in the MIDI notes, usually not. So usually I'll play them in to some degree. Sometimes I'll record it like I'm just performing, and I mean, for example, if I use rubato, if I change my timing a little bit, I'll just leave it that way in the recording. Sometimes I'll do it that way. Sometimes I'll sort of record it in kind of mechanically and then physically add the tempo changes. So if I want to add a little bit of rubato here and there, I can just actually write it in the program, which is a little labor intensive, but sometimes it works better for various reasons. For example, the one with the flute and the harp, I had to do it that way because it just wasn't working trying to play in all the parts live. That's another reason why it was so much work, because it was like a million bits of rubato. Sometime I'll show you inside the project of that one. It was a nightmare. But at any rate, yeah. So this one, I think it was all sort of more of a music boxy type of arrangement. And then let's see if we pull up the piano roll again. You can see I've got you can see what's actually going on. So for those of you who don't know, the way these MIDI sequencers work is you get your MIDI, and then the color in Logic corresponds to how hard the note's being played, quote unquote, and how loud it will be. So you see the dark blue and purple is a little bit softer, the lighter is a little bit louder. So that's one of the things I like about the celesta sound, is that you can do a lot of variety and make it sound more musical. And then I've chosen to put it in as 3 separate tracks here. I could have done it all in one, but it worked better for a couple different reasons, mixing wise mainly, I think, to do it as several different ones. And for those of you who are curious, the celesta sound that I'm using is a contact instrument. It's just the factory library percussion celesta sound. So those of you who have contact, you should have that. I've also, some of the older lullabies actually use the Logic factory celesta, which is perfectly good. The Logic sounds are pretty good usually. Aside from, well, strings and those sorts of things are always terrible, but stuff like celesta, it usually sounds pretty good. And then, yeah, what was I going to say next? Oh, as far as the actual arrangement, how I go about it. Personally, first step is always I need the melody, of course. As far as how to get that, usually I don't work off of sheet music. Usually I'll listen to the tune. If it's a tune I don't know very well, for example, How Far I'll Go, I think I hadn't even seen the movie at that point when I arranged this. So I had to go online, find it, and listen to it a few times until I got the tune down, and then I just did it by ear, and then came up with an arrangement and a harmony that I thought worked for what I wanted to do. And that's the way I usually work. I virtually never go off of a score. I'll just do everything by ear. And for those of you studying music, that's one of the reasons why you should pay attention to that, because it's one of those things they made me do in college, and it's been surprisingly useful throughout my life. As far as my approach to actually arranging things, personally, I think you have to get sort of the rhythm down first. Like, is it going to be a march? Is it going to be a ballad? That sort of thing. It's all rhythm is the key to how it feels. So for my arrangements, I wanted to take something that was a very peppy song and turn it into something that you could conceivably sleep to. So what does that involve? Well, first of all, obviously slow down the tempo. That's usually the first step. And also come up with something rhythmic that's a little more soothing. So in this case, I started with a little rhythmic figure here. And then I like that there's a little bit of interplay between them, the rhythm of the melody and the rhythm of the left hand, so I like that. For me, that's usually key. I'll usually just play around on my little bitty keyboard until I come up with sort of a riff or a rhythm or a sort of how I want the flow of the thing to go, before I start putting anything down on, quote, paper, unquote. But that's basically my process. And then aside from that, it's just hard work. You come up with a part that works, a left hand that works, and you just keep going, find what works, what doesn't work. And then stuff like this, for me, it's sort of a long process to record it in, and if my performance isn't perfect, or in my case, if your keyboard doesn't reach all the notes, you have to do some things manually. I do a lot of editing, a lot of, oh, I played this note too loud, I can go in and make it softer, or what have you. And then, yeah, as far as mixing goes, I don't do a lot. I do a little bit. You don't see any EQ on this. Well, a little bit there, just to take off the lows. Because I remember doing some EQ inside the contact player. For whatever reason, it worked out easier for that. I was able to do some things to make the justice sound a little less muddy to me. But I think it's, let's see, I've been rambling for about 15 minutes now. That's probably enough of a taste for you guys. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've made, like I said, at least 130 lullabies, different lullabies. Some of them have been original. As a side note, just a curiosity, it's actually a lot faster for me to write an original lullaby than it is to arrange something like a Disney song. Which is funny because people think, oh, it's not original, you're doing a cover. But it's actually, I can sit down and do a little original pretty quickly. I mean, it may not be the best thing ever, but I mean, I can do it. And that doesn't take me very long. But depending on the song, especially a song like this, or especially some songs are just don't want to be lullabies, like what's it called? One Step Ahead, or something from Aladdin, just like didn't want to be a lullaby, and that one took was a lot of trouble. So yeah, so some of them have been original. Sometimes when I've done an original lullaby, it's just because I was being lazy and it was literally faster to do that. But I've done between the original ones and the covers and the little softly sung ones we've done. It's been at least 130, 140 lullabies I've arranged specifically for you guys. So I hope you've enjoyed them on the channel over the last 5 years. And I think I'm gonna leave it there. Thanks for stopping by. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. And as always, please remember to like and subscribe. That really helps me out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next video.